Morning, everyone. We will call the meeting to order at 9:31 a.m. The motion 2025-0077 to adopt the agenda, which is resolved that SSEA Joint Municipal Service Board approves the meeting agenda dated January 29th, 2026. All good. Moved by Mark, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? Do we have any declarations of plenary interest? No. Okay, moving on to approval of past minutes. So 4.1, which is the motion 2025-078, resolve that the minutes of the SSEA Joint Municipal Service Board Q3 2025 meeting held October 30th, 2025 be approved. Any questions? Okay, moved by Suzanne, seconded by Barry. All those in favor? 4.2, motion 2025-079, resolve that the minutes of the Severn Sound Source Protection Authority meeting held October 30th, 2025 be approved. Questions? Moved by Mark, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? 4.3, motion 2025-080, resolve that the minutes of the SSEA Joint Municipal Service Board special meeting held December 3rd, 2025 be approved. Questions? Moved by Barry, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? 4.4, minutes of the Executive Committee meeting held January 16th, 2026. 2025-081, resolve that the minutes of the SSEA Joint Municipal Service Board Executive Committee held January 16th, 2026 be approved. Questions? Moved by Mark, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? 4.5, business arising from the minutes. Julie, do we have any update on that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. From the Q3 minutes, just a follow-up that we did the action items relative to Maple Leafs Forever were our resolutions were sent to your member municipalities. And Councillor Walma did attend the final Georgian Bay Township budget deputation and provided a presentation there. The next set of minutes being the SPA minutes, a letter of support signed by the chair was included with the best practices for source water protection program funding, as you directed. I think that's it. The executive committee meeting, if you read the minutes, one of the items was that after the elections today will be at 7 members. So knowing that the executive committee can't have 4 members at that point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And then, okay, so 4.6, which is motion 2025-082. Resolve that the minutes of the Severn Sound Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting held January 16th, 2026 be received for information. Questions? No. Moved by Bill, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Okay, and at this point, I will pass the chair over to Julie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have.
Pause for a second, let them.
9:40 we said, right?
It's all good. Just start. You guys are good.
Apologies. Watch the board.
Okay.
When I'm back, oh my God.
It has been.
Yes.
That's really, it's so cool up there. I skipped it.
Just
You did it more than.
take this.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's good.
Morning.
Morning, Mark.
I feel better. We've got lots of support now. Morning, all.
Good morning. Oh, sorry, were we teaming up against you there, Mark? Cause.
Oh,
Okay, so we will move to the elections process now, if everybody's ready. As per section 3.2.1 of SSEA's procedural bylaw deals specifically with board elections and states the board shall by resolution elect a chairperson, a vice chair, and annually at the January board meeting from among its members to serve for a term of 1 year or until his or her appointment by his or her municipality ends, whichever occurs first. The election of SSEA officers for 2026 will be conducted by myself, Julie Cayley, Executive Director, acting as Chair Pro Tem. General rules for the election are as follows. Only current directors of the SSEA may vote. Each municipality has 1 vote, with the alternates only voting in the primary if the primary member isn't present, if there is a voting alternate. Nominations will be called 3 times and only require a mover. Nominations must affirm they are willing to let their name stand for the position. The closing of nominations will require both a mover and a seconder. In the event of an election, each nominee will be permitted not more than 2 minutes to speak for the office in the order they were nominated. Upon the acceptance by nominees for the position of office, directors attending online will submit their choice via Priv Note to the appointed scrutineers, and directors attending in person will submit their ballots to the appointed scrutineers. Positions are required for chair and vice chair of the SSEA for 2026 and must be appointed members of the SSEA Board of Directors. Now that I've read the general rules, I declare the position of SSEA chairperson and vice chairperson vacant. I am seeking a motion that Melissa Carruthers and Lex McPhail be appointed as scrutineers for the 2026 election of SSEA officers, and further that the ballots be destroyed after the election process. May I have a mover and a seconder? Suzanne and Bill. Thank you. That is carried. Are there any nominations for the SSEA chairperson from the floor?
I'd like to nominate, assuming she's interested, Danielle to carry on in the role.
Thank you. I'll ask a second time. Are there any nominations for SSEA chairperson? I'll ask a third time. Are there any nominations for SSEA chairperson? May I have a mover and seconder to close the nominations? I'm going to go Lori and Suzanne. All those in favor of closing the nominations? Thank you. That's carried. Danielle, are you willing to let your name stand for the position of chairperson of the Severn Sound Environmental Association?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you like to say anything? You have 2 minutes if you'd like to make a little statement. I will time you.
Thank you for the nomination. Again, I guess second time around of this. So excited. This is a great organization and I will do my best to serve as chair.
Thank you. So the results for election of chair for SSEA in 2026. Danielle, member from Springwater Township, is the SSEA chair for 2026. I'm now going to move to vice chair. Are there any nominations for SSEA vice chairperson from the floor?
I would nominate Suzanne.
I will ask a second time. Are there any nominations for SSEA vice chairperson? I'll ask a third time. Are there any nominations for SSEA vice chairperson? Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder to close the nominations. Steffen and Danielle. All those in favor, closing the nominations. Thank you. That's carried. Suzanne, are you willing to let your name stand for the position of vice chair?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes to make a statement.
Just thank you very much for the invitation. I enjoyed serving as an executive member and for my second term, and I look forward to another very productive year as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. So the results for election of vice chair for SSEA 2025, Suzanne Marchand, member from Penetanguishene, is Town of Penetanguishene is the SSEA Vice Chair for 2025. Thank you. Sorry, did we need to do that then for the third executive? Is that what we're?
We did last year.
Okay. So for the third executive member, I understand our past chair would continue to be Steffen Walma, but you've indicated that you would be fine not being the third member.
So just if I could quickly, I'm happy when required to step in and help out, but considering my future with the organization will be concluded in November, I'm happy to see other people step into the roles, and seeing as we're 7 members now, 4 people will be quorum, so can't be a part of the executive board. Happy to step back and, like I said, step in if asked.
Thank you. Are there any nominations for SSEA third executive member from the floor? Suzanne,
I'd like to nominate Mark.
thank you. Are there any other nominations? Sorry, you're calling a second time for SSEA nominations from the floor for third member on the executive. Call a third time. Are there any nominations for SSEA executive third member? I have a mover and seconder to close the nominations. Lori and Suzanne, thank you. All those in favor of closing the nominations? Thank you, that's carried. Mark, are you willing to let your name stand for the position of the third executive member?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Sure.
Mark, would you like to take 2 minutes to make a statement?
Sure. I enjoy being on the executive committee and also with the association as a whole. So I look forward to an exciting 2026.
Great, thank you.
We have to, Richard, I got to talk about you.
And I'm sorry, I should have mentioned for the record, Mark is our member from the Township of Severn. Great. For the results for the election of the third executive member in 2025, Mark Taylor, member from the Township of Severn, is the SSEA executive member. So we have a motion that resolved that the Severn Sound Environmental Association Joint Municipal Service Board has appointed for the year of 2026 executive officers as follows. The chair, Danielle Alexander from the Township of Springwater. The vice chair, Councillor Suzanne Marchand from the town of Penetanguishene. And our third executive member, Mark Taylor from the Township of Severn. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Suzanne, seconded by Lori. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Congratulations, new chair, vice chair, executive member, or remaining. I will now step down as chair pro tem and pass the meeting back to Chair Alexander.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, so moving on, item 6, the Severn Sound Source Protection Authority meeting. We have no update today, so we will move on to item number 7, which is a presentation from StrategyCorp presenting the SSEA Joint Municipal Service Review.
Great, thank you. You want to right up to the front here with Lex?
Sure.
Thank you.
Anybody needs another coffee while I'm setting up? Sorry. Terry?
Absolutely.
Thanks. No worries. Do you have a copy of the presentation or should we put it up on the screen? I'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah,
Great.
just tell me to advance.
I will. Thanks.
Just.
So just for context, members of the board, the discussion we're having today really continues from the one we started in December. And this represents work we've been doing with your staff for several months. Really 2 objectives: review the agreement that governs how you all collaborate in this organization, and then take a closer look at the funding formula. We talked about both in December. We talked particularly about that funding formula. And in December, you asked us to do some additional analysis that I'll show you today. That analysis really focuses on changing the way the budget looks and communicating different information about Severn Environmental Association's collaboration with you and the services that it delivers. But I want to stress the information that we're talking about today is not different in any other context, except that it presents the same information you've been getting in a different way. But it is still at its core, the same costs, same revenues, same services. Where historically, that information has been presented in a line item budget, traditional, most organizations that you're familiar with have them, use them, your municipalities would be among those that I would point to as examples of using a traditional budget to illustrate salary costs across the organization, or membership fees, or travel expenditures, or fuel, or maintenance. Those traditional line item costs have been around for a long time. There are other approaches, and we've adapted Severn Environmental Association's budget to reflect one of those approaches, which is a service-based view. And that is a little more complicated in some ways. But from the perspective of someone who is interested in understanding the business and understanding what the value of the services look like, it's an approach that is more natural. It's how you talk about the services that we're funding here. And so I'll walk through a bit of an illustration of what that looks like and what its implications are, because there were some steps we could take with a service-based view that we couldn't take in this example, because the data is not there. That's not a shortcoming of staff or of your systems. The systems weren't built for this information, so it's not there. If you wanted to do this on a permanent basis, there would be some new administrative infrastructure to build to create the access to that information on a regular basis. Alexa, if we can advance to the slide here, I've walked you through just briefly what the general conversation I intend to lead you through this morning looks like. We also, as I've been talking about the funding formula, reviewed your letter of agreement, which has been a long-standing governance document. And we've made some recommendations. My colleague, Brian Teefy, who I believe is joining us online, will highlight the changes that we're recommending there. But we're modernizing and strengthening the governance function from the executive function of the organization and clarifying roles and responsibilities throughout. Have an opportunity to talk about that. The next slide. So to do all of this, we've done a variety of things since really September in collaboration with your team, who have been excellent colleagues to work with and very forthcoming with information, context. Similarly, staff in your municipalities that we've reached out to consult for perspectives and advice or input on both of these elements of the work. We're very accessible and very open with their comments and their assistance. So thank you. Made the work easier for us. In December, as I said, we reviewed funding formula options with you. And I'll briefly highlight, just to refresh your memories, what we talked about in December. And since December, we've developed this activity-based approach that I'll show you this morning. So this is your budget. This is the current funding formula. This is the distribution of costs. I just want to call out, you've seen this slide many times. The 928,484. That's the cost that we're distributing among members. That's the cost that is reflected in the service-based view that we're going to talk about this morning. So when we go through the comparisons, this is what we did in December. We showed you a variety of options that change the way the numbers are distributed, but it is still at $928,000. We're just reallocating the cost, essentially. And the conclusions that we made were based on some criteria that we developed. 4 categories of criteria: fairness, predictability, affordability, and transparency. Transparency was something that was particularly interesting both in our conversation in December and from the feedback we heard through the consultation with municipal staff. There is, as is often the case with line item budgets and with an organization like Severn Environmental Association, where the work is complex. And it is not something necessarily that is in your face every day. You don't necessarily see it directly. There can be confusion about or less clarity about what the value of those services looks like using traditional budget presentations. The traditional budget presentation is about accountability. Transparency is something that comes with additional inquiry or additional information to support an understanding of the business. And so, notwithstanding those shortcomings, your current funding formula, from our perspective, represents a reasonable, fair approach to allocating the organization's costs. It's very predictable. It's been a long-standing tool that's been used for many years. So it makes sense, and it can continue to work, was our conclusion that we talked about in December. If you wanted to change it, there were other options. Changing the allocation model using impact assessment information, or some of the service-based details that we'll talk about this morning, may strengthen elements of the conversation about SSEA's budget, but it weakens others. And so the assessment we showed you in December characterized those changes based on a color coding system and those criteria. So there is no perfect answer here that was waiting to be discovered. Each has pluses and minuses. Yet, you asked us to go further in illustrating what an activity-based approach could look like. So we did. When you look at what you have now, again, I want to stress, it works. And you can supplement the current approach with some of this performance-based information and develop a fuller picture, not just for accountability purposes, but for transparency, to get a more holistic picture of the business and to understand how SSEA contributes to the results in your strategic plan and contributes to the quality of life in your community. So an activity-based approach takes a different view of the business, and it starts by asking, what is it that you do? And that sounds like a very basic question. Again, the answer is what we've been doing for years, but the description of that work is reported and established in what we've called a service catalog. And there are 5 services that we've identified in this work that really represent what you would see from SSEA as a user, as a consumer, as an interest holder in this business. When you talk about SSEA, you're probably talking about these services in the service catalog. And then we ask another question of staff. Well, okay, if those are the things you do, how much do you do? What does the work look like? What is the output? It's a report, it's an inspection, it's a sample tested, it's a well monitored. There's a variety of things that SSEA does that are tangible actions they take day in and day out. So we identified those and we asked, how much of each of them do you do? Again, this is information that staff have not necessarily reported as systematically as what we were asking for here. So a caveat you might hear me mention a couple times is, these are estimates. This is not a definitive answer to the question, what does each of these activities cost? It's illustrative. And if you wanted this on a routine basis, there are some administrative processes that need to be established and strengthened to make that information feel robust and reliable. But for the purposes of illustrating what it could do for you, we think we've done enough homework here to illustrate the point. And then once you know what the services are and what the activity level for each is, you have a budget already, that $928,000 I called out. Well, then distribute that cost. Distribute that cost among the services, identifying where the effort for each of those services is going. And then where we stop is there in today's discussion. Where you could go, if you had more details, is to answer the question, well, who pays? So you know what the cost of your services are. Among the members, then the answer to the question, who pays, requires some negotiation, requires some more information about the benefits that each gets from these services that doesn't exist today in a form that everyone would agree is reliable. So you can have a good conversation, but the question of whether there's value from those services for each of the members that equates to a bill to be paid is a negotiable conversation, I would suggest. And so we'll show you today what your services are and an approximation of what they cost. And we'll illustrate what the benefits of those look like. But a distribution to members is an element that would require some additional information that just wasn't available for the exercise we've been given to do since the middle of December. So nonetheless, there's value here. Go to the next slide. Your services are going to give you insights, like I said, that allows you to have some better conversations at this table, better conversations with municipal members about just what it is that this organization needs to do or should be doing. And so you've got a much more transparent story. Remember the criteria to evaluate the funding options. A much more transparent story here with a service-based approach that lets everyone on a consistent basis understand what they're getting for the money that's being. It also facilitates other types of decisions. If, for example, you looked at the costs for these services and you said, geez, I know there are companies that do this cheaper, then the conversation can either be, well, staff, let's figure out a different way to get this done that costs less, or let's explore partnering with this company that I know can do it cheaper and see if we're getting an apples to apples service comparison and maybe saving some money. Those kinds of discussions can happen anytime. This makes that conversation more routine and easier to get through. And you also get better information about just for the service costs themselves, why they cost what it costs. You know what the effort that goes into each looks like. You know what the workload is. If there's a change in workload, if there are new elements of the service that need to be incorporated, you can anticipate what the cost implications look like with a higher degree of confidence. And it further clarifies what the direct line of business cost looks like from the administration services to run the whole organization are. So you get clarity as well about what is a direct service cost and what is the administration overhead or the governance cost to run the business. That's important as well to ensure there's a reasonable distribution between the head office costs and the frontline costs. So your services look like this, based on conversations with staff. You've got 4 services that I think you would all recognize and be familiar with on some level, but we've defined each of them here briefly. And then you've got this organization governance and administration costs. These are the head office costs, the back office services that apply across the board. In a system like this that's mature and evolves, this box would disappear and you would have all of these costs distributed appropriately among the services that people could recognize and put a price to. But we wanted to show them here distinctly today just to illustrate that there is a reasonable, in my opinion, level of administration costs. And from a governance perspective, it's useful for you to have that picture as well. So just taking a brief look at these services, you would recognize from their labels what that work looks like in your communities. You'd recognize from your conversations here, all of these things represent work that is done on a daily basis within the organization. These are not new things. This is just taking the information that you've already been talking about and categorizing it differently. So when you take these services and you ask the question, well, how much of each do? You get an answer. The answer first is, well, we don't have this information on a systematic basis. Well, let's make some estimates and facilitate a discussion. And so that's what we did. And for each of the services, you see, again, things that would represent outputs, things that you could put some visualization to and understand based on the service description. This is what the work is. And so when you talk about environmental monitoring and analysis, you're talking about monitoring stations. You're talking about samples. With stewardship and restoration, you're talking about discrete projects that get done to facilitate an environment that is responsible stewardship. You are also talking about tree planting, lots of tree planting. And source protection, of course, drinking water source protection. You're talking about all the systems that are being monitored here by the organization. So that information facilitates some calculations. So if we go to the next slide, you see a different distribution of the cost, the same $928,000 now distributed according to the services that we've just described. And so you see the relative scale of effort associated with each of these services. They're not equivalent. And with systems that are going to give you more accurate information about where the effort is going, those numbers may get refined. But from the perspective of an experienced staff team giving us an approximation of where their time is going and where the costs that are not staff costs in their budget are being allocated, this is the picture that develops. This is what the relative cost of your services looks like. And again, general governance costs highlighted using a consistent, transparent kind of allocation basis would go out to the other four in a more mature system. But as a starting point, I thought it appropriate to highlight those here as well.
Just quickly. For my own understanding, drinking water source protection is already broken out into where the work is completed. No?
Through the chair, so, drinking water source protection is the bigger overall piece. And the risk management services are the ones that are specific to a municipality. So those systems, as an authority, we are responsible for all of those systems within the region.
But the source protection component is already separated through in the risk management, I guess.
Right, so the risk management is the on the ground. We're coming out to your municipality for a development at one well kind of idea.
Okay.
And is not included in the core, right, is paid for outside of
separate,
this
yeah.
is the core.
Perfect illustration of the kind of conversation that might not happen if you didn't have a service-based presentation. So when you talk about those global costs and you talk about how much volume of work is attached to each, you can start to calculate some unit costs. And this is where comparisons with alternative service providers or more focused process review or policy questions that might drive changes in price become a little more easy to see and become interesting elements, particularly in budget conversations about just what it is you're paying for when you're being asked to fund these services. And so these are not, now that said, I want to highlight, this is not to suggest that every new drinking water source protection system will cost you another $1,900. It's not, we're not that precise. This is an illustration of the relative workload associated with each of the elements within that service. So, you know, I'm not paying $8 every time someone plants a tree. But if you wanted to know what the cost of planting an individual tree was, you're going to refine that $8 number to something else. And so if you were planning to plant more or less trees, you could facilitate a conversation about just what the incremental cost or the incremental reduction in that budget would look like. So better discussions like the ones you have now, but with more refined insights. And so this is just a visual representation of the cost that I've been sharing with you. And so you see that the bulk of your efforts are here in environmental monitoring and analysis, also facilitating stewardship and restoration. Those are your two primary service streams. The drinking water source protection is next here with community engagement and partnerships, and then the governance costs. So again, proportionately, these look reasonable. Based on the conversations we've had with staff, the governance and administration costs do not look out of line with what you would anticipate seeing within the municipalities that are making up the membership here, for example. And the distribution of these costs generally looks reasonable. So as a starting point, if you wanted to develop this on a systemic basis, you've got a point here that gives you a reasonable base to consider how you would refine and where you want more detail to facilitate a better understanding of either some or all of these services. To combine and get full value of this kind of presentation, you also need some KPIs, some key performance indicators. Julie provides those now, some of those now in her quarterly reporting to you. Our advice would be to continue that quarterly reporting and augment this service-based reporting information with some KPIs. And you do that for the reasons expressed here. Again, get a different view of the organization. It's good governance. It's a forward-thinking governance practice. And when you've got a relatively small number of key performance indicators, the discussion about strategy, the discussion about operations and execution are easier to have, and they're more effective, in my opinion.
That's good.
So you've got just an illustration here of information that Julie's been providing to you for a while. All of the information here is representative of your 2023 financials. And so this is 2023 performance indicator information that Julie presented to you before. We didn't create any of this. This already exists. And they are an effective governance tool. So you can talk about needing new or different KPIs on a prospective basis, and we're happy to help facilitate conversations or assist in developing those if you like. But the bottom line from my perspective and my advice to you is that KPIs add value to your conversations. And you should want those, whether you follow a service-based budget approach or not, to help you focus on the results that matter to you and illustrate where there's some trends developing that may or may not be favorable to your overall objectives, and demonstrate accountability to the member municipalities. So our advice, Madam Chair, members of the board, is to take a decision about this service-based, activity-based reporting information. And our view is you've got choices here that represent using this as a business planning tool. So keep your current funding allocation. Keep the current funding formula. Augment it with information that I've just described here to fill out the picture of the services that SSEA is providing with those costs, and avoid the administrative infrastructure changes that would need to be in place for this information to be routinely, regularly available. And you go a long way towards enhancing the strategic discussions that it sounds to us like your member municipalities are interested in having. An alternative approach is to take this approach that I've just described and use it as your budgeting tool. You're going to have that line item information as a foundation. You're going to translate it into these or other buckets that illustrate the service-based presentation that you're most comfortable with. And you're going to take those extra steps of getting the additional data that would be required that we don't have yet to understand how to rationally distribute costs to each of the members on an activity basis. The question of who benefits is an important one in that conversation. And the answer today is the nature of these services is such that everybody benefits. And so discreetly identifying benefits that make a unique charge make sense is going to take some work. And it's not work that we've done in the last few weeks to prepare for this meeting. That's a more complicated exercise. Or do this periodically as you update your strategic plan, as you bring new board members on board and there's orientation. This information can help provide some context. And so my characterization of these options is the first option is a straightforward and relatively easy implementation choice. The middle option is a complicated one that takes some extra work that hasn't been in place yet and needs more data than you have now. And the third one is easiest. And I would suggest least valuable from the perspective of routine governance, but not invaluable or not valuable for the purposes of giving everybody an opportunity to see the organization from a consistent view. So, Madam Chair and members of the board, that's the assessment of your funding formula and service-based view you asked us to produce. I'm happy to address questions, and thanks for the opportunity to do this work with you. It's been great.
Thank you very much. I just opened up to questions about from the floor, right? Sorry. Think so?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, okay. Opening it up for questions. Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, yeah, so with option number 2 that we're speaking about, it's gonna require more administrative work, et cetera. Do we have an idea of what sort of the breadth of that would be or the cost would be in order to implement that?
So in terms of what I'm describing as extra data or new data and the incremental work, I would defer partly to Julie, but I would offer that what you need to consider is not just systems that capture this information on a consistent basis. There's some integration of that detail with your financial system. That can be done manually. So there'd be a pair of hands that need to be in place and assigned to that work. I don't know what the existing staff complements days look like and whether that's available to you now, or if you need to hire another pair of hands. That's something I would defer to Julie about.
Okay.
But there would need to be someone with some financial expertise and some additional data captured in systems that either need to be augmented based on what you have now or need to be added to SSE's network. And so it's both data and staff time.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll just ask if Julie has any other insights to
ahead, Julie.
augment the answer.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, so in the discussions, I think it became Fairly clear to us. Right now, we have a treasurer who's been a municipal treasurer, so can, understands the difference than general, regular treasury activities. But she's part-time and that wouldn't work. That position would need to be full-time. I think the other thing we identified was to build this into a functioning, go from model to functioning system, would also take something outside of us because we don't have a bunch of economic expertise within our staff complement. And so it would probably take another contract to develop it, to get it in place and function with this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So just a clarification of what you just said. So we're either going to see a reduction in boots on the ground service, or we're going to see an increase in cost, and that governance bar would go a little bit higher.
Yes. We think.
I don't have many questions. I have lots of comments, I guess.
If there's no other, anyone else questions? Okay. How about our staff?
Right. First one for me, I think that the option 2 is a no-go for me. I'm not interested in breaking down service costs for municipality, because it was pointed out the complexity of that, and I don't see how you would do it. So if Braystone, for instance, had a meltdown on their water system and it was our monitoring caught that early, did Oro-Medonte benefit from that, or did everybody downstream benefit from that? So I don't see how we could do that. We look at this from, unfortunately, but it's reality, from member to member instead of Severn Sound. So for me, yeah, just based on those comments alone, I'm not interested in exploring option 2. And then I was going to ask about option 1 that was presented. I would like to know more about how much how much time we're going to be spending on this, and there's obviously a give and take. So if we invest more time in the administrative side, we're losing the boots on the ground side, or we're spending more money. So what does that look like in reality? So as of right now, if I were to make my own recommendation based on what's been presented, it would be looking at our periodic review, using these KPIs as a orientation for new board members as presented, and accept the rest of the report for information. No offense.
One take. All legitimate choice.
But I want to see where the conversation goes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Lori?
I will respectfully disagree. I think a lot of this, not that I would be in favor of option 2, because I think there's more to that we'd have to flesh out, and I think cost is very important, and where do we get those funds from? Do we have a trade-off or an increase? But this conversation in my mind is around how do we better demonstrate the value of what SSEA provides to our townships, so that the rest of our council and our community can understand that, yes, this spend is important and this is what we're getting from it. And from the day one with me sitting here, that's been the challenge. That's been the challenge where people don't understand. I feel we haven't done a great job, nor have the EAs, in demonstrating the actual value per dollar. So somehow we have to get to some compromise as to how were we better able to demonstrate that. And you spoke very eloquently about that. And there's some tools in here that I think we can leverage in order to help have better conversations at the municipal level with our colleagues and with the community as well.
Thank you, Lori. Suzanne?
Thank you very much for the presentation, and to staff for all the work in pulling this together, because this is not something that, just even coming up with the estimates and whatnot. So it's certainly this is information that's not lost on anybody. I think that's what should really be emphasized here. This was an exercise that we all felt was important, A, to review the agreement. So I know we're going to be talking about it shortly, and then really looking at the funding model. I think what resonates for me is just really that outline of all of the great work that's being done, the volume of work, and then how do we verbalize that and bring it back to our boards. We know that this is a model that is cost effective for our municipalities. I do like the idea. I would like to keep the funding model status quo with the focus on KPIs and what those look like without causing a significant additional amount of administrative burden and additional work where we take people off the field or on the ground in doing this reporting. So, but I think also to Lori's point, it's that balance, bringing it back to councils and to staff. We know that behind the scenes, our staff are constantly doing work with the SSEA, and I don't have visibility to that, nor do I need to from an operational perspective. But certainly the feedback is when the SSEA is needed, when we're consulting with them, they're available, they're our go-to. Responses are quick. We know that there is a lot of cost efficiencies. We know that our lab work is done through the Ontario government. We don't pay for that. So if we had to go out and pay for that, there's a lot of these other little incremental costs as well. And from an administrative perspective and governance, it's very much in line with the size of budget that we have. And at the end of the day, benefits are going up, insurance is going up. All of those things is a reality for all of us in our personal and professional lives. That's the nature of administration and that overhead piece. And we're grateful to TAY because we do have services that we're able to leverage as well, which is beneficial, some savings with gas and payroll and those other administrative pieces. And that's part of the collective. So I do appreciate the work. This is a really great overview. I think it's also a really great tool for new members coming in because certainly we get to sit at this table for during our elected terms, and that's going to change at the end of this year. And I feel for certainly the staff, it's a bit of a learning curve every time you have a set of new faces around the table, and really ensuring that value and that work continues in a positive way. So I like option one that's been put forward to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I like of the three options, the first option, but if we can enhance it with KPIs. I think we have a multitude of reports from SSEA. It's really good, but if a KPI can narrow it down, quick summary of snapshot where it's happening. I enjoyed reading this report. And as Lori was saying, if we can come back with something a little more fine-tuned to go back to our councils to make sure that they understand what we're doing, and it's a really good story, and keep it sort of simple if you could. So my option is somewhere option one with using some KPIs.
Smart. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, just a quick comment as well. I as well would lean towards the option one. I think everyone at this table understands the important work and the great work that the staff do. I think what our challenge is selling that sometimes. And that's what we have to do. And in terms of, I do understand, it is going to be more administrative staff time. But when I look at our past 2 years, I'm wondering if the time that we've spent going back 2, 3, 4 times for budgets, is it going to even that out? So again, not saying that we might not need to have another contract person or, Judy becomes like, those are discussions, but I think we would probably end up somewhere in the middle because staff spent an exorbitant amount of time in the last couple of years going back over and over and over again. And we're very good at anecdotally saying the important work SSEA does, but we don't have it. And it's not that we don't have, you do provide the statistics, but not in a clear way to present to councils and the public. People like one pacers, that's all they want. So for me, that kind of provides that without the excessive administrative work that would be involved in option 2. That's just my comments. Okay, so I think at this point, we're just receiving it, then we discuss it further in the agenda. Am I correct there? Okay. There's no more comments, questions at this point. Sorry, go ahead. Fine.
Just one thing I wanted to share with the board, and I think, Chair, you kind of hit on it with the time you spend going back and forth on the budget pieces. I think, one benefit of doing this annually is that they're, for your municipal partners, they can see what you deliver and perhaps more easily compare it to alternatives. Like I think there's been some questioning of the costs, and the comparison has been to, I don't know, some sort of amorphous other amount. So this may help just give the municipalities an objective comparison to work with, and I think that's a really helpful thing on a yearly basis, where if you did it every, say, 5 years, like when we talk about that letter of agreement, we recommend a funding formula review in there every 5 years. Those intervening years, you may not have that information available to assist in those discussions that can take a long time.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so at this point, it is motion 2025-088, resolve that the presentation regarding the SSEA Joint Municipal Service Review from StrategyCorp be received for information. Oh, sorry.
Hang on this thing.
Okay, what do we want to?
So Brian's presenting the agreement, right? It's all right. So why don't we, I would suggest we wait and let Brian present the agreement,
Okay,
and then that covers all.
okay, so we just hold off on.
Yeah.
So no, second for this.
My suggestion would be you receive both together because you're not making decisions. Does that work for everybody or no? Or you can receive them both separately. So there'll be a presentation on the funding formula, which you just received, and then Brian is going to do a presentation on the agreement. So you can just as easily split them and receive them both.
Okay, let's do that. I think that's probably easiest.
Sure. Okay, so go ahead and do the one you have, and then Nicole can create a second one for the Brian's, or you want to do them together?
I think we do them together, so
Yeah.
not being clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're just gonna pass it over to Brian to do the, perfect.
Is that good, Brian?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll be probably briefer than Ed. Obviously the agreement, going through line by line is important. What we did is looked at it once we reviewed the agreement, proposed changes that I would bucket into three types. One was hygiene and good governance. One was there's just some clarity pieces, and then functionality for the board, the executive director, and how you engage with your local municipalities. One thing we should note is, with an agreement like this, we do recommend a final review from a lawyer, your legal team, to provide that type of advice. We don't provide legal services, governance, and policy. So I think that would be a good just final step before you adopt any changes to the letter of an agreement. And perhaps that, whether you adopt that now or after the election when you get a new board, is up to the board. We don't have a strong view on the timing on that. A few things that we covered: policies versus direct actions for the board. We tried to clarify the board is best set up to approve the strategic plan, set those directions with the executive director and staff team implementing those pieces. Obviously, there's the letter of the agreement to take into account, and then issues arise. So the letter of agreement isn't, you want to I think use your best judgment, and there's some issues that may be technically in the purview of the staff, but because of ongoing situations, different pressures, important to make the board aware of or seek approval, even if it's not directly required by the letter of agreement. We added some additional just best practice policies. One, I'll just note, is enterprise risks, undertaking a review annually of those enterprise risks that may come up for an organization of your size and type, just having a plan to deal with those. It's a best practice that municipalities have now. One other piece, just in terms of how you communicate to your councils and to your municipalities. One new piece in there was a budget memo to CAOs in advance of your final approval of the budget and in advance of municipalities confirming their budget. So there is sort of a formal update to the CAO on where your budget pressures are, where they're coming in, to make sure that is integrated into the municipal budgeting process. And then the second thing is for informational items, a requirement to report annual planning updates to the clerk. I find the clerk is a really good resource to make sure that information is shared at council meetings. So all council members, all of your colleagues can review that in council documents. The other thing I mentioned just at the end of my last note was the funding formula review. We put in place a commitment to review that funding formula every 5 years. It can be an internal review or an outside consultant review, depending on the choice of the board. But that's given that is a concern that comes up with your members, it's a good way to review that. Technology is changing, environmental expectations are changing. So the funding formula review you do in 5 years will be different. There may be different technological solutions that can help improve the KPI development and how you slice and dice the budget, as Ed was saying. So that's I think a good item to put in there. Another note just on competitive procurements, highlighted that procurement should be competitive unless approved by the board, and there's other reasons why you might have to sole source or choose a vendor in a different way. So those, I think, are the key pieces I wanted to mention to you. Obviously, a number of hygiene pieces that I won't take you through. We updated the definitions for clarity, and I think that's all I would add right now. Julie, I don't know if there's any other points you wanted to cover or flag that I missed.
Actually,
Through the chair, I don't think so. Thank you, Brian. I think you've covered at high level. In your package board, you have the you have the track changes version as well as the clean version with the track changes incorporated, and then the memo of what that Brian's been highlighting. As well. So hopefully you've had a chance to see those changes. And staff have gone back and forth with Brian and the team around some of the changes, just clarifying what they actually mean. And we're relatively comfortable with this, the way it's being presented, I think.
Sorry, one point I forgot to mention that I should flag is, that there was in your initial agreement, there was a comment about a business plan, a strategic plan, and then you obviously have your budgeting process. I just note that a business plan is, largely like an outdated language in these types of things. For example, in provincial legislation, they removed business plan from policing legislation and just talk about a strategic plan. And then there's the budgeting process. And, so when you think of your business plan, from the changes we proposed to the letter of agreement, that is the business plan, the budgeting process. And then you have your strategic plan that gives that longer term 4 or 5 year direction to staff.
thank you, Brian. Steph?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Why 5 years? And I ask just because election cycles are 4 years. If we make a decision now, the entire next term of this board doesn't do a review, and then it lands in a first year member first year board that is gonna do the review coming in.
Good point.
I think, you know, aligning it with the municipal election cycle is smart. So I think strategic plans, I've seen them 3 to 5 years, anywhere in that space. A couple organizations do longer term, 10 years, which seems ambitious. But I think aligning it with the municipal election cycle could be helpful too. Like you have to, you know, so you have an election coming up this fall, you have new board members coming on. You know, how long did they need to get onboarded, comfortable with the information to go through that strategic planning process? So I think one option maybe, I'm just trying to find, I don't know that we specified 5 years. I know we were talking about a time, so we might not have specified 5 years in the letter, unless I'm just missing it here in my review. But we could, so there could be just, I think right now, the way we have it is there is some flexibility there. We could reduce that flexibility and suggest like within X amount of months after a municipal election, update the strategic plan. So that might be, you know, within 6 months of an election, then you can have that process. That's something to consider.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Or coming from the audience, just further to what Brian was describing, you may also in establishing this new agreement, set an effective date that makes, whether it's 5 or 3 or some number of years, regular review fall in the middle of a term. So it may be that the first version of this agreement is 6 years or 4 years. But if it lands such that the next update is in the middle of the next term, then it would be perpetually like that. And it would give board members and councillors who are more experienced a bit of an opportunity to reflect on just what they've seen and learned and suggest changes. So there's a couple of simple ways to navigate that risk that the councillor highlighted.
Yeah, and Councillor Walma, just to reduce any confusion there, I was speaking with the strategic plan, which we didn't have a date in, but for the funding formula review, we did specify 5 years. So just wanted to make that distinction between the strategic plan and the funding formula review for clarity.
Thank you.
So just based on that, I think it's administration 4.2. Thanks, Mark. I would recommend we change it to 4 years and have it land in second year Q1 or Q2 kind of thing of a term, and something to that effect.
Any other comments, questions? Really?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify that I think what Brian and Ed helped clarify for me when we were talking about that would not necessarily be this level of review.
No.
Again, it could be as simple as us making sure the MPAC data has been looked for, like to see if it's updated so that the inputs are that we're reviewing to make sure that we're using the most up-to-date information, et cetera. And that everybody's still comfortable. So not necessarily a full outside review. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so at this point, we are receiving both for information. So can I just, agreement?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, so motion 2025-088. Resolve that the presentation regarding SSEA Joint Municipal Service Review and third-party review letter of agreement from StrategyCorp be received for information. By Steph, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Okay, so moving on to,
May I?
yes,
Make the decisions before we go to the rest.
I like that, yes.
Sure. From the 9.2.
Okay, can I just do that or is there anything specific to that?
No, I would give you-
Yeah.
It's been moving of agenda items. Yeah, I don't-
Okay. Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. So we're gonna move, item 9.1 and 9.2 up in the agenda so we can, provide direction, regarding the presentations. So the first one is, regarding the third-party review update letter of agreement. So what we just spoke to. Yeah, go ahead.
You're reading that. So from our staff report, we did not identify in the current state that the third party has presented it in. We have not identified any risk with the proposed updates. And we were recommending that you go ahead and approve that. Understanding now that I think there's one minor edit that was made by Councillor Walma or suggested by that we could incorporate. So I would assume that maybe should go in the motion to update 4.2 in the agreement to say every 4 years. And then we would make sure that obviously after you've done an absolute final review, that it would then be distributed to your municipalities as well as an update. This is the letter of agreement.
Okay, do we have any further discussion, questions, comments? Go ahead, Steph.
So the rejoining fee, is that, that's part of the thing. I would actually say that I would support a joining fee, but not a rejoining fee. And I kind of picture it as almost like a development charge. Once you pay the development charge, so Georgian Bay was here, they made the investments in, well, whatever assets we have, which physical assets are minimal, but they were here. So if we're gonna bring back Aurelia, the Georgian Bays, that kind of thing, I'd like to see that as seamless as possible. But if, say, I don't know, Temiskaming Shores wanted to join us for whatever reason, that would be a different discussion.
Suzanne?
I would support that, with the caveat that if it's midway through, the year and budget's been established, that there be some prorated formula, or if we look to how do we keep that clean, chances are it's probably going to be around annualized budget times perhaps in terms of when they come back in. But I think we need to take that into consideration as well, is timely re-entry and just like that prorated piece. But I agree. I don't know that I'd want to charge someone for coming back. But I do agree that as someone joins, perhaps that we look at it from that perspective. But in the spirit of teamwork and our original agreement, I think, we'd love to see members come back, that's for sure. And don't want to seem punitive in providing that fee, but just making sure that we are covered. If in the timeliness of when they do come, if they do ask to come back in and join, it's around budget time. I think I'm just more conscious about when that's going to happen. As much as we'd like to say it's the next fiscal year and we would calculate it from there, who knows? It may be halfway through a financial year. So I think that's just one thing to be mindful of. Bill?
Just a quick question. Are there any costs for anybody at Georgian Bay, leaving the organization? Are there any costs for the administration when they leave?
I love it. We'll put an exit fee in too.
No, just asking, so if they wanted to rejoin, if there's any substantial costs, which I don't think there are, just asking the question.
Julie? Thank you, Madam Chair. We don't have an exit fee.
Not a fee, just the cost of the administration. Is there any paperwork or any costs involved for them to leave?
Just, I think for us, it was just more meetings to make sure everybody was clear on what they're still obligated to and what they're not obligated to.
And
Where that would have come into play was in the past when we had deficit repayment. So Aurelia left when we were still in a deficit, so they were still obligated to repay. So every year they still had a deficit repayment charge, even though they were no longer a member until that was paid. But that would be an obligation that would be spelled out in in the process.
Bill, thank you, Bill, you just sparked an idea or a potential concern. But it didn't happen because we had a deficit and we are really, paid their share of the deficit when they left. Do we have anything in our agreement that outlines obligation to that? And then do we have anything in the agreement that also outlines their lack of claim over any reserves that they have? Because technically, when Georgian Bay leaves, they would have a share of those reserves that that SSEA has as well.
No, we do not.
Is that something that we should outline as far as?
For clarity.
Yes.
If I may, Madam Chair, so thank you to Lex for putting together the appendix that's included in your package that was membership changes and potential impacts, and I think that's where it fits. There is a section in there, the municipality may be required to pay an administrative fee as determined by the board. If you want something laid out more in detail in there, I think we could do that. We could, draft something more fulsome in here and bring it back to you that would fit more of those categories you're talking about. Like, just to be clear, more clear on when you leave, what it means, what your obligations are, what they're not.
Yeah. I honestly have minimal experience in this. I'd defer to Susan or if anyone else has any, Suzanne, sorry, if anyone has any experience with something like that.
I think you raise a good point, and of course now my wheels are spinning. I don't know, I really have to give it a bit more thought, but I do get the piece around, the deferral piece, or excuse me, the deficit piece with when Aurelia left and they continued to pay because they contributed to that deficit. That makes sense to me. But you raise a good point with regards to the surplus, but I know that, we have surpluses individually as municipalities that we can tap into. So in my mind, that would be the only entitlement in terms of a surplus. Although there's surpluses in other pieces, I wouldn't think that we would be entitled to the administrative surplus in other pieces. To me, that's for the greater good of the organization from an administrative perspective. And so, yeah, I think we maybe do need some clarity around those particular pieces. Yeah, it's not a.
So you're obligated to pay deficits, but you leave all your surpluses here.
Well, no, I think the surpluses that are clearly identified to us that we tap into when we offset budgets, but for the greater piece, like for the other areas, I struggle with that one a little bit more.
Well, I don't want it. Sorry.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would think with the, Steffen's comment is reasonable. There's surpluses, you leave them on the table. There's deficits. I don't project there's gonna be major surpluses in the SSEA unless we're talking about, $50,000-$60,000 that we're owed in surpluses to municipalities, but I don't ever see that here, but if there's small surpluses, which we don't see, as I said, it may look like a big number for municipalities here, but when you break it all down, the surpluses aren't, they're very small, so. Anyways, I just want to make sure that when someone exits that, and if they want to come back, that they don't leave us with a cost when they exit. That's basically what I'm most concerned about. So.
They're leaving us a huge. Let's not kid ourselves. They're leaving us a huge amount. Now our fees are right. I get.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
And that, as partners drop off, then
Okay.
that's when maybe less boots on the ground, whatever, however we make this work to survive, right? So we want to add partners, not, not make them leave. So, for whatever reasons. So.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted, I just touch on something that Bill just to read my thought too, because we do have a later not presentation report that'll touch on it. But sometimes, and it's happening right now, we get a municipality like Severn who starts asking for more potential special project work. And at some point for them, there might be more value in them saying, what would it cost us to expand our membership boundary to the whole municipality versus trying to do all these one-offs at cost. And so I think it's important what you've just said is making sure this also gives room for a municipality saying we want to actually expand to our entire municipality or expand how much we are in versus leave. That's something we have traditionally not thought about, but it could happen.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's a very good point.
Continue business.
And I think it's important that this is very clearly spelled out because assumptions never work well. You never know, and you hope people are leaving amicably, but you don't know if that's gonna happen. So I think you want to clear that as much as possible, so. Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, I will read the motion with the adjustment, given the conversation at the table, which is motion 2025-093. Resolve that staff report number 47-25-SSEA regarding the third-party review update on the letter of agreement be received for information, and further that the board approve the recommended revisions as presented, noting that the changes do not alter the intent of the agreement and are administrative updates, and align the letter of agreement with current best practices and improve clarity, and further that board directs staff to further refine the membership changes appendix. Any questions? Go ahead, Steph.
I'll support the motion. I do want to just touch on the KPI thing, and it's down to like.
The next one.
Next one, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Enthusiasm.
Love it. Okay, all right. Moved by Mark, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? Oh, yeah, that's yours.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're moving on to the third-party review update funding formula. So I will open that up for questions or comments. Go ahead, Steph.
So this is I think this is like a consensus idea. So I'm going to one more time reiterate that I think the KPIs are great. However, I also see that the additional workload is going to have, like, it's a cost association. We're either going to have less time invested in boots on the ground, or we're going to have more money allocated to admin, to up staff and figure that part out. So if that's the way we go, that's the way we go. I just want to point out that everyone's comments are about how we sell this back to our council. So they're saying that it's the KPIs are going to be this great save all. I do not have that level of faith in our council members at our respective municipalities. You could tell them, you could have all the KPIs in the world. It's not going to change. You're still going to be at that table, shoving it down their throat to try and convince them that this is a good thing. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to how we sell ourselves, and I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think KPIs is the bullet that it's being presented as. So I still support the third option that was presented. Again, I'm not going to push the matter any further though. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Any other comments? Questions?
I'd like just to add to Steph's concerns and going forward, with now with 7 partners, hopefully we're 7, we're increasing, but it's decreasing. The thought of adding more cost to the administrative part of it, we're trying to reduce costs, not add costs, right? So, and we talked about boots on the ground and so forth. I don't see how in the future that there'll be less boots on the ground. I believe that in order for SSE to survive, if we're continuing here, we're faced with a 10% or 15% increase next year. I don't know how we get to, our, convincing our council that, from my experience, Steph is kind of saying that there aren't going to be cuts to boots on the ground. And we should very, very seriously think about, what's least important and what's most important. I'm hoping that we can continue to go boots on the ground. But what we're going to be faced with next year, I know everybody this year has cut back because it was an election year too, but I'm already briefed and I know next year it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging for our municipality. I can't speak for anybody else's to be, where we are this year in our budgets. So I just want to make sure that we're aware of well, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm just thinking how are we going to navigate this next year? If I'm in my seat, I don't know if I'll be there, but the next council will have challenges. So, and then being you, looking at an SSEA ask of maybe double digits, because we were down to 7 partners, may be tough to swallow. So I just want to make sure that, we're prepared and we're thinking ahead and not, because budgets are what, in July, start doing the executive, right? So it's just right around the corner. So anyway, just the comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Suzanne?
I think I'm really hopeful that we can look at what we're already reporting and turn those into KPIs. I think that's really where my head is going to, because I don't disagree. There's a lot of information that comes. Like we've seen great modernization, that infographic that we get. I make sure to pull it out of council packages. When I'm at council, just to highlight it, just to kind of have SSCA there at the forefront on a regular basis. I already feel like it's there, and I'm hoping it can just be maybe more compartmentalized and outlined as a KPI. And so I'm hoping it doesn't create more work, because that's the last thing that I want to do is increase costs from this perspective through this exercise. And I think that legwork's been done based on getting us to this point with this third-party review and presentation. So I'm really hopeful that it's already there and that it's not creating more work, and that we find a way in which we can continue to report on it from that perspective. So that's really where my hopes weren't about this huge task force and more admin and more work to create these KPIs, feeling that it's there. We just need to figure out how do we outline it and report on it on a regular basis was really my hopes, not in creating more work and reporting from that perspective.
Go ahead, Lori.
And I will echo what you were saying, Suzanne. Again, I do think it's important to have some illustrative ability to try to influence our colleagues around the township table, particularly if we are going to be faced with even more potential ask in the future. We have to have more in our tool belt to be able to paint that picture as to why. And I'm not asking for some huge administrative ask. That's why I asked the question around cost. And we're looking at, I would say, option number 1, maybe with a little bit of tightening around KPIs. It's not a huge ask. I don't think it's a big administrative cost or burden to do that, but I think it's extremely important to be able to have anything we can to help augment the conversation around the table at budget time as to why we should be supporting SSEA.
Any other comments, questions? Go ahead, Steph.
Comment. So based on my colleagues' opinions, I would be happy to support the KPI piece as long as, I mean, I won't be there for that discussion anyway. It's reviewed next year. How much time has this taken? What have we seen? Because if it does add an additional half person.
Do you want a KPI on the KPI?
Yes.
Nothing.
Call it a pilot. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Trial.
I think that's a good point. And I think both Suzanne and Lori, I agree. Again, when I was looking at, there were KPIs up there. It's how we present them.
Mhm.
KPIs can be as difficult as you make them or as easy as you make them. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We just need to, I think, have a more succinct number-based reporting. And we're already collecting those numbers, I believe, because we see them, but we see them in multiple different reports. Our council doesn't want to see them in multiple different reports. They want, like, again, similar to the infographic, that kind of thing. I think it's more how we present them. But I do think it is a good idea to review and ensure that we are getting the value. Moving this forward, like we see the value, otherwise, there isn't the point. So does somebody want to put an option on the floor? I feel like I need one, right? Yeah.
I'm willing to put forward option 1 on the floor.
Okay. And do we want to add with a review at next year? Probably a little more time just on, I don't know how we want to word that, but do we need to do that?
Yeah, I think that's important that we trial it for
Yeah.
2026 and review.
Another staff report, Julie.
How do you get?
Another staff. report.
So it'll be a review of 2025.
Bill, I just take one cream in my. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I feel left
I'm a little out
out.
of practice. I don't need to.
Yeah. Okay, so we have motion 2025-094, resolve that staff report number 48-25 regarding the third-party review update on the funding formula be received for information, and further that the board provide direction, further that, how do I word this?
For that. And
Further,
the board, you wanted to review in 2027.
okay, and further that, the board provide direction, on option 1.
I would say approves option.
Okay, approves option 1 and directs staff,
Review it. I had,
sorry, not great on my feet.
just because we're a little informal, I had made a suggestion that you direct staff to work with the executive to develop those KPIs. To make sure we're on the same page.
That works. Well, it's me as an executive.
Yeah.
You get to do it.
Sucker.
Okay,
I'm happy to.
yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah,
You
sure.
type it,
Right
right?
in my internal monologue.
Thank you, Madam
I'll
Chair.
entertain.
So the further that, after receiving the report would be further that the board approves option 1, directs staff to work with the executive to develop draft KPIs, and further that this be reviewed in 2027.
Everyone happy with the wording of that? All right, moved by Suzanne, seconded by Lori. All those in favor? Okay, now we will, yes, we'll take a 5-minute. Nope, all good. We're just gonna resume, and in the interest of time, try and,
That's
obviously if there's questions and whatnot, but, aim to adjourn at 12 as planned. So we're moving on to SSEA Business 8A, which is the fourth quarter 2025 info matters. And I'll pass this on to Judy. Nope, oh, sorry, I thought you said that was me. I was trying, but, Julie?
Thank you, Madam
Yeah.
Chair. I don't have anything to highlight. I think it speaks for itself. Any comments, questions? Happy to try to answer them on the infographic.
Comments, questions on the infographic?
Keep up the great work.
Oh, the infographic, okay.
You want it, Steph?
All good?
Those are good.
I'm good.
Any questions, Bill, or?
This way I can read it and, you know, you never know if I'm texting or watching video.
We'll take on. Okay.
I think it's well done.
Thank you.
It's good.
Yeah, I think overall sentiment is, it's a great job. A great addition to the Information received. So motion 2025-089 resolved that the SSEA fourth quarter 2025 infographic be received for information. Moved by Bill, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? Moving on to 8.3, the SSEA financial reports. So 8.1, 2025 fourth quarter draft financials. Judy.
Thank you, through the chair. The main point I wanted to make on this report is that the numbers are far from final. So although it's trending favorably, I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I'm sure we'll be in an okay position, but this isn't the final. And I'd also like to note that there could be deferrals that we come to the board and ask if we could defer funds to 2027, specifically for some unexpected equipment savings we've had. And perhaps if there's any payroll savings, we could defer to 2026, since we decreased our payroll complement for the 2026 budget. However, with all of those numbers not being final, I can't bring that forward at this meeting. So it would be at a future meeting at the board. Thank you.
But if you were a betting person? We're good.
Any questions, Suzanne?
Why would we defer to 2027? Is it because it would be an equipment cost that we wouldn't need in 2026?
I'm sorry, did I say 27?
Yeah.
I meant 26.
Okay,
Okay.
no, I just
Thank
wanted,
you.
no, that's okay. I just wanted to.
We're going to 27 budget, 26 to throw.
Yes, yeah, sorry, keeping it all straight. Thank you. No, that's good.
Any other questions, comments? All right, motion 2025-090. Resolve that staff report number 44-25- SSEA regarding the 2025 fourth quarter draft financials be received for information. By Steph, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? Moving on to 8.2 SSEA 2026 staff COLA salary increase. Or no, really?
I will take that. Thank you, Madam Chair. This typical report, there is a 2% COLA increase in the approved budget for 2026. Sorry, yes. 5. What year are we in? And the 26 budget that you've already included a 2% COLA. This report includes information on some of your municipal increases. We provide that to you every year so that you can see if we're in the same range as the average of all of your increases. And at 2%, we're slightly below the average.
Jeez, apparently we're cheap and tiny.
Any questions or comments?
For the unionized one.
Bill?
Do we know what the actual, the total of the COLA is on the staff complement, like what that 2% amounts to?
Oh.
2026.
You probably-
Sorry, off the top, I don't, but I think
I can ask that in 30, just remember.
probably not even one.
Sorry, I was just saying it's less than 30,000 at 2%, I would think, but it's a good question.
The only other thing I would note is that we are also within range with the 2 conservation authorities who seem to have reduced slightly this year.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Steph.
Refresh my memory. When was the last time we did pay compensation and pay equity review? That was in 2018, 19?
Yeah, we deferred, it should have been this year, and we deferred that in the budget to next year to redo this or to do a compensation review. To do it in 27.
And we did, so because we deferred the pay equity too? I thought pay equity was like,
Pay
Andy, we
equity,
have to do.
The equity, we did, but
Done.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember that. My apologies.
the original.
Okay.
When it was all done in the first place to create the grid.
Yeah, but don't you have to do the pay equity? You just the one time and then it's done?
Through the chair, sorry.
To maintain.
You have to maintain it, but you go through the exercise ones that establishes your base from a compensation perspective, and then you create the grids.
Mhm.
Because then you've equalized male, female, job comparators, and then you update your grid. That keeps you in compliance with it.
Okay, so we just have to do the pay compensation now. Okay,
It's best practice, right, to do compensation.
and that's next year.
Sorry, and a quick reminder that the pay, the compensation grid at the time had an extra step to reduce the annual
Yes.
increase.
Judy?
Thank you through the chair to answer Councillor Meridis's question. I would say it's around $20,000 is the cost. Process.
And I was just gonna ask about the pay grid. If there was, like, fresh my memory, there is a pay grid. And so forth, so.
And we're in year 4 now. Because we did it the last year was the first year of implementation of previous term, correct?
We implemented in 2023. We got the study done in 2022. And we did pay equity in 2022, but we implemented the grid in 23.
Right.
Yeah.
We set the
Year
budget
four.
for 23
To be
budget. which
reviewed every
wouldn't have been-
3 to 4. So we moved it a year to 27.
So right now, the 2% is COLA. And then from the salary grid slide, basically everybody started at the bottom of that grid. So we still have 3 years before people are,
Next.
yeah.
We'll see the answer.
Did you have another question, Bill?
Just a comment. I'm not sure when COLA came into the picture for SSEA. I know I'll be totally honest, I'm not a fan of COLA at all. When I came into, because you have a pay grid and you move up that grid. And cost of living, when I talk about my municipality and I see COLA. But we have 4 unions to bargaining tool and so forth, right? So, which in my view, I think, because we have a pay grid as well, plus you get the cost of living adjustment in municipal salaries, they're unless you're at a $60,000 salary, I could get behind a COLA. But when we're in the 100+ salaries, I can't get behind them. I mean, there's a lot of, and the question what happens is in a municipality and we're trying to get funding for SSEA and budgets in my municipality, people are looking at, well, I don't get COLA. I work hard, right? I pay taxes, so it's tough to defend, right? So, and I would agree. I mean, a lot of blue collar workers out there that are struggling, and then not only are we getting paid on the grid, but we're also getting our 2% cost of living adjustment. So I'm not here to change it. I don't agree with COLAs and then when we're looking at a $20,000 bump, right, which was 2% in 2026, when we're actually trying to, whether we have more increase or we're just talking about more KPIs and so forth, and I'm not saying that, you may not, you're not worth it, but it's the whole SSEA as a whole is worth, keeping the funds there and then making sure it's successful and going forward. And we're partners. So this is $20,000 and as the grid increases 2%. If we're still at 2%, that type of money adds up, which could be left in the SSEA for keeping the boots on the ground and so forth. So it's my type of comment, nothing crazy. I'm not going to change anything here, obviously. But I'm not a big fan of COLA overall. So better ruffle some feathers here.
Did you?
Lori first,
No,
then
no,
you.
I don't disagree
Yeah.
with you at all, but the problem is we also need to attract and retain employees. And if you're not offering what the other municipalities or EAs are offering, then you're gonna erode your talent pool. So I hear you and I do not disagree with you, but the conundrum is, it's out there. And that's why we're stuck with that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. We get thrown this at, our in-camera meetings and so forth, and Midland will always, as we want to get in the percentile, whether it's 60, 70 percentile in the pay grid. Other municipalities, or, cities, they have more money than us. So whether we try to catch up with them, well, they're just going to keep on. going ahead. So we're always the underdogs, no matter if we go up on the pay grid, they could outmatch us and grab that talent. So it's whether you want to, and I go back to whether you want to be here in our municipality, to live here and have the lifestyle. You're not going to get paid the salaries of, well, you may, but I would say your cost of living should be lower here, but in the city, kind of the balance, right? Work-life balance. So, but I'm usually on the losing end of that conversation, so. I'm,
The only comment I would add is, so ensuring that when you do the COLA, you're making that adjustment from a grid perspective. The intent is not everybody moves up at the same time as the grid. You hit your anniversary date, it allows for budgeting. But when you don't do that, and then you go back to your grid 5 years later, you're almost 8 to 15% behind just to get you to the 55th or 65th percentile. So the fact that you guys aim to be at the 75th, kudos, because like, I'm happy if I can get most organizations at 55 to 60.
You guys
It's-
aim for 75?
no, we're at 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I was like, oh, well, it's changed since I've been there.
No,
That was
they're trying to
18
get to
years ago.
70, but that is out of reach. Like,
It,
can't
it,
get there.
yeah, and that's why, but then to this discussion, we look at our local comparators. We're not gonna compare Toronto or Barrie even. We are looking at like-minded. That's part of this piece. Like when I do it in my day job and look at comparators in this community, I don't even touch the hospital because I'm not trying to compete with the hospital. They're not my competition because I can't come near those collective agreements and those dollars. It's about really who are the organizations, and you look at size, budget, all of those other pieces as well. And so COLA is a challenging one. I don't disagree, but it also has another use in that grid process, because if you don't do anything, then you get stuck at looking at 8 and 10% increases. And then everyone's like, oh my God, we can't do a double-digit increase. Well, if you choose 0 taxation years, it's like my first thing on council in Penetanguishene. I'm like, don't clap for yourselves for your 7 years of zeros. You guys have dug us in a hole. That is not good business. And so when you don't do COLA, it's also not good business from that perspective. So that's my soapbox rant and my 25 years of HR.
I support the 2%.
So, Barry, go ahead. Sorry, I missed that.
No, and I agree. Susan just hit it bang on. Where we all run into problems is when we do the comparison, every 4 years. We got so far behind, it's to try and catch up, as Susan says, you're looking at 10% increases. So this is marginal, keeping it even at 2%. So no, I think that's we're on the right track here to try and catch up.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, I'll just put my 2 cents in here as well. I fully actually agree with you, Bill.
Oh.
My first term on council, I argued against this so hard because COLA in the private sector does not happen that much, or certainly not anywhere I've worked, but I do feel in a municipal setting, it is a necessary evil. So it is what it is. And I absolutely appreciate that you kept in line with the municipalities and the EAs around us, because I think that's important in order to retain staff and all the reasons why, because the people we're trying to get will get it elsewhere. So again, in my perspective, it's a necessary evil. Again, to staff, certainly not discounting anything you do. Please know that. Okay, so motion 2025-091, resolve that staff report number 4525-SSEA regarding a 2026 annual COLA salary increase of 2% on the 2026 budget be approved by the board, and further that the executive director be authorized to implement a 2% cost of living increase for SSEA staff effective January 1st, 2026. Moved by Steffen, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? All right, 8.3. Verbal update on status of 2024 audit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Township has just notified us that the audit is in the hands of the auditors as we speak. Look forward to hearing about that, as well as what they plan to do for the 2025 audit, whether they're going to go to RFP or extend the appointment to the current auditor. So we'll wait to hear on that and go from there. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Thanks, Barry.
All right, motion 2025-092, resolve that verbal staff report regarding the update on the status of the 2024 audit be received for information. Moved by Mark, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? Okay, moving on to corporate administration updates. So we've already dealt with 9.1 and 9.2, so moving to 9.3. This is the proposed Conservation Authority consolidation update. Julie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report just outlines the activities that we've taken around the Conservation Authority review. Those of you will remember this is pre-Christmas. We discovered in doing a deep dive in the provincial posting that they had in fact included some of our municipalities. Although they said they were not changing the boundaries, they had included you by name in the regulation. And they have since, we've double checked and it's been removed, and there's a note on the ERO posting indicates that the municipalities that were included by error have since been removed. We will stay on top of this and are staying in connection as much as we can be with the folks at the center of this. We were invited or managed to get ourselves invited to a in-person consultation in Collingwood just before Christmas. Melissa and I went, and it was mayors and CAOs and some CAOs. And it was, most of my career, I've been involved in some level of provincial government consultation. It was one of the stranger ones I've been to, where it was very dictated. There was no open, free questioning. It was, they presented, they gave a bunch of detail, and then they actually had a formal, here are the questions we expect you to answer. And our tables went through them, and we had, Melissa and I were both at different tables and had some pretty good conversations, I think, with mayors from some other areas who just felt like they weren't clear on what was happening in this whole process. I think what matters for us specifically is that our municipalities that seem to be getting caught in it have now not been and officially removed. However, if a municipality had wanted to be part of one and had not been, this would probably be the time to jump in to the line. And that's, I think, all I'll say about that. I have a fair bit more information in the report, but it just was, I've not ever left a consultation more confused than when I went.
Thank you, Julie. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Steph.
Just very quickly, and maybe for a future meeting, if we could get a report back from Lori and Danielle anecdotally, if this change has resulted in any decrease in costs from the CAs for you, because you have two.
Three.
Well, we
Well,
have,
we're not CA, you have two.
we have two CAs. Well, it's interesting because I had and yes, I'm happy to do that, and I'm starting to explore that right now. We're going through our budget process in Oro-Medonte, and I had a really good conversation actually with Julie just earlier this week in that spirit as to, you know, what does she see perhaps happening from the SSEA point of view, but also I am discussing it with the mayor who's on the Simcoe, Lake Simcoe, and our other representative from NBCA, just to see what they're hearing and feeling. But I think right now there hasn't been much really clarity on what that may look like. So, but for sure, I don't know if you have any comments, Danielle?
Very similar, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
happy to kind of dive into that once we get there. Because it'll be interesting, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. So I have not actually had a chance to reach out at Oro-Medonte CAO wise about that. I was too busy saying thank you for clearing the roads. But I did meet the new CAO in Springwater just after having been to this, because she was not able to attend that. So we had a good conversation. Just sort of some came up there. But just to clarify, the province is saying this won't be, whatever they decide won't start to be implemented till after the election, the municipal election, because they would like to start with fresh boards. And if you think about it, if they're going to take that many CAs and put them together, they can't have boards the size they currently have. So they're going to have to go at a regional level to get board members for a CA of that size.
Thanks. All right,
Just, yeah, has there been a change of minister? Cause I did notice that, I'm drawing a blank on his last name, I know his first name. The current minister,
Oh, that from time.
yeah,
Um,
McCarthy, thank you. He's got infrastructure right now. He's the Minister of Infrastructure acting, so I didn't know if he's carrying two portfolios. So anyway, I was just curious, sorry.
yeah, sure. Okay. So just general comment on my thoughts is that, this current government doesn't seem that interested in public consultation. It's just my comment.
Could have just removed it.
So motion 2025-095, that's resolved that staff report number 49-25 SSEA regarding changes to the conservation authority system and impact on the SSEA be received for information. Moved by Suzanne, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? And moving on to the 2026 SSEA Board meeting schedule.
Yes, so most community councils tend to be on Wednesdays, so that's remains to be true. So we just stick with Thursdays and the last Thursday of the month after the quarter. So I have the dates listed here, and I will be sure to send out some calendar invites as well.
I quickly just have a question on this. The third quarter on October 29th, that is going to be directly after the municipal elections, I believe.
Yeah, you won't have.
So we wouldn't even have members yet.
Yeah.
So we might want to look, I don't know how we've done that in the past.
Our term technically goes until November.
Oh, okay.
Till the
22nd?
inaugural, right?
And so
15th, I think.
is it 15th? Yeah. So we will be good for that one. And then theoretically, if we had this come up last time too, we are the appointees until we're not the appointees. So if it didn't happen last time, so it was okay. But the way that we read it, we went to a couple of the clerks that if the mayor appointed Suzanne and Suzanne doesn't even run, and we had a meeting in December and they hadn't appointed anybody, Suzanne would come to the table as the representative.
Go get stipends for that, Dana?
I was gonna say no, but you can wear your slippers.
That is a good point, because it does have to come to council, right? For
Yeah.
that piece, okay. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then that was just my only concern. Any other questions, comments? All right, so motion 2025-096 resolve that number 50-25 SSEA regarding the 2025 SSEA board schedule be received for information, and further that the SSEA Joint Municipal Service Board approves the following schedule of SSEA board meetings for 2026. Meetings will be held from 9:30 a.m. to 12 noon at a location to be determined. First quarter meeting, April 30th, 2026. Second quarterly meeting, July 30th, 2026. Third quarter, October 29th, 2026. Fourth quarter, January 28th, 2027. Further comments? Moved by Steph, seconded by Lori. All those in favor? Okay, moving on to 9.5, Township of Severn, Tea Lake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very quick one. I only bring it to the board, so as an information item, the township had reached out to us about a lake that falls in the township, but just outside of the watershed. Asked us to do a proposal. So this is an example of what we can do with member municipalities. If you have work you want done that doesn't fit either directly in the watershed, or you want an external project, and it has been, we gave them options, different project and budget options, which they've chosen. So we are going ahead with a Tea Lake monitoring project. That's a fee for service project this summer. So talk to Mark if you're interested as well in expanding any services. We've also since been asked by the township to look at, instead of doing one-offs, could we build a more of a strategic approach to all of the monitoring potential for the township? So the township can also help answer questions when individual cottagers associations come to them.
Yeah, just for reference, half of our township to the north isn't part of Severn Sound, and that means Severn River, Sparrow Lake, Lake Hutcheson, it all ends up in Severn Sound. but just back 20 years ago when they did because of with the dilution effect with the rivers and stuff. So no harm in asking what the price is. It might scare us, and we also have another inland lake, Lake St. George, that would be part of this too. So starting point is T Lake. The Cottagers Association came to us to see if we could help them out. They liked the open houses they saw with Severn Sound, and we're going to try and simulate what we do with McLean Lake, and McLean Lake should be MAC on there just for reference there. But it's exciting to get them in and get some data for that lake. So we'll see how it goes.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, motion 2025-097, resolve that staff report number 51-25 regarding T Lake in the Township of Severn be received for information. Moved by Mark, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? 9.6, drinking water source protection update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've got the staff report in front of you. The key highlight for Q4 of 2025, now I'm confused as well, is that a proposed new water system in Township of Springwater has received final approval from the ministry. So all the source water components for that are now done and complete. That was live. It's not in the staff report, but I just, based on some conversations here today, I just want to take a minute to talk about status of Georgian Bay in relation to the source water program. So as we move into 2026, I'm going to split it into two things. So Source Protection Authority, it doesn't matter if you're a member or not. We're named in the regulation. We have a role to play. So with Georgian Bay leaving as a member, it doesn't change our status as a Source Protection Authority for both Aurelia and Georgian Bay. So that stays status quo. From a risk management official, so that is delegated by the municipality. It gets a little bit more complicated in Georgian Bay because the system is the responsibility of the district of Muskoka. So we've had conversations with both the district and Georgian Bay, and for 2026, they've agreed to, I'll stay their risk management official for 2026 at this point. So no, although they're not going to be a member of, there's no change from the source water. How we've been operating. So that stays status quo for now.
You keep saying for, sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Madam Chair, you've used the term for now several times. Were there discussions about change?
Through you, Madam Chair. So no, but the only thing I have for sure is in 2026. So I would anticipate that as we move forward into 2027, there'll be further conversations on the risk management piece of what we've got to do. But we do need from both the district and Georgian Bay.
No.
What?
Follow up. So you are the risk management official for, I think, 6 of the sitting members, right? Springwater uses Barry.
Correct.
If Georgian Bay pulls out, does that impact anyone else, or is it still a fee for service based model? Is it going to impact the cost of the partners?
To you, Madam Chair, so it remains a fee for service.
Any further questions, comments? Ready? Motion 2025-098. Resolve that staff report number 52-25-SSEA regarding an update on SSEA drinking water source protection activities during Q4 of 2025 be received for information. Moved by Steph, seconded by Barry. All those in favor? Okay, 9.8, tree seedling distribution and community tree planting program updates. Oh, no, sorry, I missed 9.7. Invasive species program funding and project update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What I would like to emphasize here in this report is that a reminder that Severn Sound has a designation through the Invasive Species Center as a regional Phragmites focus management group, which means money will run through us, through SSEA. So when your municipalities, when your staff see those advertised, see them publicly advertised, yes, they can reach out to the Invasive Species Center, but they should probably reach out to Severn Sound's Invasive Species coordinator. He's the one who's coordinating the money. We've had some confusion in the last year where some municipal staff, actually in some municipalities, we have some staff in certain departments go directly to the invasive species centers, and then others know we exist and come to us. And that creates a bit of confusion and ties money up. And we'd like to see as much money flow as possible. This is specific for Phragmites, no other invasive species. And it is, we manage the fund through us to go to your municipalities. So Patrick, our invasive species coordinator, helps the staff figure out where they want to work, where the costs are coming from, where they might get contractors. And because the money did not get used up last year, so we were approved for 50,000. It did not get used. We only used 20. They've only approved us for 25 for this year. One of the challenges was that municipal staff told us the contractors who do, for instance, what do you call it? Herbicide, chemical removal, were tied up in larger geographic areas like the GTA. And so there just wasn't the availability of people to do the work here. So this is not like volunteer frag removal, people cutting one at a time. This is larger scale. A municipality has a plan. It fits with the invasive species center direction. And then we help get the money to you to offset your cost. So I could have been helping to pay for contractors to come and spray and that sort of thing. Basically, it's supposed to.
Go ahead, Barry. Do you have a question? Oh, no.
Nope.
Okay.
Awesome.
Any other questions, comments? All right, staff report. Oh, sorry, motion 2025-099, resolve that staff report number 5325-SSEA regarding SSEA invasive species program funding and project update be received for information. Moved by Lori, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Now on to 9.8, tree seedling distribution and community tree planting.
The deadline's gone for orders, so hopefully if you wanted trees, you've ordered them. There was a mad dash of orders and a mad dash of people coming to the door to pay. So it feels like it's been pretty successful. We had 9 native tree species, 2 native shrub species available for purchase. Pickup will be late April, early May. And I would assume if he hasn't already done so, Travis will be in touch with your municipal staff just to arrange pickup locations again. We did create some wording for anyone who called from the Township of Georgian Bay asking to purchase so that we could express to them that unfortunately they were not able to do so.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Nope. All right. Motion 2025-100, resolve that staff report number 54-25-SSEA regarding tree seedling distribution and community tree planting program updates be received for information. Moved by Bill, seconded by Steph. All those in favor? All right, 9.9, watershed stewardship, Hog Creek project final update.
Thank you. So this project ended December 31st of 25. We had 98,750 from the Ministry of Environment to deliver the project. That included helping offset some staff cost, as well as dollars for plantings and citizen science materials, workshops, etc. And the HCF Community Forward Fund, we also were very fortunate to get a grant from them as well that goes towards this project. 114 participants were engaged. That was through everything from workshops to site visits. Planted over 2,700 native plants. 4 hectares of land have been restored and enhanced, and that exceeded what the project planned to do. So that was just on the Hog Creek, and that was a demonstration project that we could then build out if we can find the funding to expand it beyond Hog Creek watershed.
Thank you, Julie. Questions, comments? All right, motion 2025-101, resolve that staff report number 55-25-SSEA regarding watershed stewardship Hog Creek project, GLLAF update be received for information. Moved by Mark, seconded by Steph. All those in favor? 9.10, update on Project Seed and Bee Parks. Thank you.
This project works specifically on land, municipal and school lands, over 2,000 plants planted. At parks, 21 sites and at least one in each member municipality, as well as at 6 schools. And the external funding for this ended in December. So again, a project that we continue to try to find external funding for. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Go ahead, Suzanne.
I just think this is a great example of a really good community initiative, working with just in our local parks and with the schools. I think that's, I always enjoy reading on this particular project, so it was really great to see. And just the return on investment in terms of what we were able to accomplish, the amount of touch points and representation across all their municipalities. Great work.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, motion 2025-102, resolve that staff report number 5625 SSEA regarding seed and feed parks project update be received for information. By Suzanne, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? 9.11 SSEA Agriculture and Nature Initiative update.
Thank you. This is a follow-up. You gave us direction in the last board meeting to go ahead and apply, even though we've ran into some challenges and were unable to spend in the first year. This is a project to do on-farm specific work around marginal land, everything from fencing to tree planting to planting pollinator species, all those sorts of things. So we have applied for year 2 and 3. The intake's done and we have conditionally received approval and are awaiting our draft delivery agreement.
Questions, comments? Right, motion 2025-103, resolve that staff report number 57-25 SSEA regarding SSEA Agriculture and Nature Initiative RALP update be received for information, and further that staff be directed to negotiate an RALP delivery agreement with Conservation Ontario to support and further develop the project over the next 2 years. Further questions, comments? No. Moved by Mark, seconded by Lori. All those in favor? 9.12 Port Severn Fish Habitat Enhancement Project Update.
Thank you, through the chair. With the listing come ongoing commitments that were part of our delisting requirements, the International Joint Commission. And those include fish habitat improvement projects. We don't generally find money to do those or ways to funding to support those. Port Severn area downstream of Lock 45, known as the Bayview Dam, is a known walleye and lake sturgeon spawning area. The habitat has been degraded, which affects fish production. And we were approached and have secured funds from the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission. That's a US-based commission that's working with the provincial government here, as well as the federal government here to do some work on this project. We will be coordinating the project, not doing any of the in-water work, et cetera. We are in the process of hiring a project coordinator. And this is an example of the benefit is not specific to a municipality. This benefit will be to anyone and everybody fishing in the Georgian Bay area and beyond. Walleye and lake sturgeon are a significant fish in our community. Thank you. We can keep you in the loop as we secure a person and actually get a project plan to move it forward.
Great.
Just a question, logistically, do you deal with anything with the Township of Georgian Bay, or is that you're strictly on the water side, I guess is my question.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I suspect not. I suspect it'll be more dealing with Parks Canada, DFO, Ministry of Natural Resources. It'll be more in water,
Right.
yeah, and shoreline.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Great, motion 2025-104, resolve that staff report number 58-25 SSEA regarding Port Severn Fish Habitat Enhancement Project update be received for information. By Mark, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? 9.13 Severn Sound Watershed Community Flood Risk Review.
Thank you, through the chair. This project is a funded project. It's to your project. The working group has been formed. We have a body in place, Jennifer, who is leading this project. All of your municipalities have been engaged, and we have several different areas of partnership. This team also presented and was asked to come to the county's emergency response meeting so that they could share what they're going to be doing and coordinating. We're also coordinating with the two conservation authorities around this. This is not floodplain mapping. This is a different process. One of the outcomes may be that you get high risk areas mapped that you could then look at floodplain mapping if that was something you wanted to do as a municipality. They're working a fair bit with Lex right now on the mapping side and getting this piece moving. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions? All right, motion 2025-105, resolve that staff report 59-25 SSEA regarding an update on the Severn Sound watershed community flood risk review be received for information. Moved by Steph, seconded by Barry. All those in favor? 9.14, monitoring programs update and highlight.
Thank you through the chair. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. This is the time of year that most of the work is focused on data management, analyzing samples that were collected that people didn't have time to analyze. So things like the invertebrates, the bugs that we collect out of the streams. This is when the staff are identifying them, looking at, are they representative of good quality, bad quality, that sort of thing, doing a lot of data management. We do still do a well monitoring run in the winter as well as the streams. And we're looking at possibly internally picking a couple of stream locations to do a thaw rain sample. So to look at what is, and it's possibly not a sample if we can get a probe that we can leave in the stream to see what salt levels do in a winter thaw or rain. And then this will be coming to you. So you all have one of these in front of you. Olena is looking at getting a better handle on what kind of reporting people want, what looks good, what doesn't look good, if you want full report, what you're looking for. So it's a survey. I will be sending something to you after this meeting, and then we'll also be sending it to your CAOs, your clerks, and your communication staff. And then I'll be going out publicly as well. So just something to keep in mind, and please input if you have a few minutes.
Great. Questions, comments? I think this is amazing. I know, or like will love this. I know that it's important information and it's a great way to engage with the community. So I'm super happy to see that.
Thank you.
Okay, motion 2025-106, resolve that staff report number 60-25 SSEA regarding monitoring program update and highlights be received for information. Moved by Bill, seconded by Lori. All those in favor? 9.15 weather station update.
Just a quick update. We have staff did look at what last year looked like, and the year certainly looked at heat accumulation, but reduced rainfall events and slightly decreased growing season length. So one of the things these stations actually calculates is crop heat units for agriculture, so growing season length. So that information we take to agriculture meetings throughout the year, and they find that very useful. And we are looking at providing more similar to the water quality piece, but more accessible update so that people understand more. What I will say is if you have our website on your phone and you go to the front page, we have widgets, they're called, right, Lex? With you. I know. Thank you. And so the two widgets are the Midland and LaFontaine stations. So I often personally check these. They'll show you what the current temperature is, the current wind. So LaFontaine right now is -19 and 14 km/h wind from the north-northwest. Midland is -19 with a 5.7 km/h wind from the straight northwest. those, and then you can click on the logo, our logo, and get a little bit more detail of what's happening at that weather station. So I find them useful to decide if I believe Environment Canada. Although on a storm day, if you look at them, they are completely different, which is fascinating always.
It's always windy in LaFontaine.
Yes,
We can.
yes. So, just a reminder, it's a tool that you can use, that anybody can use off our website if people want that information. We do know our agriculture community does use it.
Nice. Questions, comments? Go ahead, Barry.
Actually, no questions on it, and I think it's great, but anyway, I have to leave the meeting, so my apologies on exiting here, so. Thank you.
No, we should be fine.
Thanks, Barry. Cheers.
Take care, Barry. Okay, so motion 2025-107, resolve that staff report number 61-25 SSEA regarding weather station update be received for information. Moved by Mark, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? 9.16, past and upcoming events.
I think that report speaks to itself, 14 events in that quarter, and quite a broad array from local to Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative to all over the place. So always happy if there are events your municipality would like to see us at, or events you think we should be at, or events you're going to, let's say Roma, or anything where you want support, or even if you don't want someone to be with you, but you want some support and information to take. So you're happy to do that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
To that point, do you guys usually do something for Winterama when we host?
Yes.
I didn't see it. There's Winter Carnival.
Are you log side?
Haven't got back to say yes or no yet.
They become a last 30 year dog.
It's too cold. I don't like hanging around. No.
Any questions, comments? Other than that, no. Okay, motion 2025-108, resolve that staff report number 62-25 SSEA regarding SSEA past and upcoming events be received for information. Moved by Steph, seconded by Suzanne. All those in favor? 9.17, funding application update.
Thank you, through the chair. So this is obviously fourth quarter, so end of 25. Community donations were around $3,831. External funding secured was approximately $474,526. And there's some totals there that show you moving forward as well. So that report also shows what we've already secured for the next couple of years, or if we have multi-year agreements in place. And it's secured. So I will say the one caveat is, for instance, in that 474, if we weren't able to spend money, we don't remove that from here. This is what we were approved to have. And I know Judy had a comment she wanted to make.
Yes, thank you through the chair. And thanks to Melissa, she brought to our attention that the drinking water source protection contract with the province is not currently included there. So if we add that, the total at the bottom increases from that $1,039,000 to $1,245,000, which is really good news. And going forward, I'm going to fine tune this report a little bit. So there's a big section at the more or less the bottom where we, or the second section that talks about funding previously secured, like previously reported. I'm going to put that in a little summary. And if you want to refer to it, I'll have which quarterly reports you can. And that way, this report isn't going to be 9 pages long going forward. So, and we will include the drinking water source protection contract going forward in this as well. And the name of it isn't the grants funding anymore. It's just funding because it's donations, it's grants, and it's contracts. So it's just funding. I just want to speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne?
I just want to say kudos to the team, like the amount of funding that you go out and actively source and secure on behalf of the SSEA is like, that's significant, over $1 million over the last 3 years. Those are big grants. You guys manage them very well. And I just, I think it's one that I know in the budget this year, I made sure to highlight that this was the kind of money that was secured in addition to the funding. And it really just speaks to you do all of this work and you're also like pounding the pavement and grinding to put in these applications. And these applications are not just straightforward. There's usually lots of time and effort and data that has to go into it. And then all of the things that you have to do to demonstrate how you used it and your results and everything else. So just really wanted to say well done by the team and just keep up the great work. It's wonderful that allows us to do so much more for our watershed.
Any other questions, comments?
I just have a quick comment, just to add on to that. Yeah, the funding, when you're presenting in front of councils or any reports, I think going forward, tap yourselves on the back a little bit more, like about the funding that you guys go after and the amount, because I think when we try to approve certain projects, we look at the grant, staff is doing good on the grants, then it's easier to approve that funding from municipalities. So I think you guys do highlight it, but just make sure you highlight it more effectively, I would say, just to, I think in our budget, not sure whether it was the meeting here or in front of council, I did highlight that staff does for funding grant applications. And that amount of, $1 million+ goes a long way.
Yeah, and just further to that, one of the thoughts that came to my mind, and I don't think I saw it included, but to me, that's something we would include in a KPI to call it out, because to everyone's point, it's a big dollar, it's a big percentage considering what the overall budget of this organization is. And I think it needs to be, again, highlighted because people like that. Go ahead.
I love that when we're doing well, but sometimes those government pots dry up and there aren't grants available. So if we're talking about reporting on a KPI, we're year over year, and I'd say for the last 4 years, we've been very successful. And then we have a year comes forward where we don't have that. It's beyond our control as well. So I would just, that scares me a little bit.
If I could add to that, you raise a good point, but I think this group does a good job of reporting on what they've applied for, whether they were successful or not. So I think that is the other piece too, because I believe that in the past, you've highlighted grants that you've applied for that they weren't successful for. So the KPI doesn't necessarily need to be money, but it's the number of grants perhaps. But it is a good point, because some years there's no extra funding and no calls for, proposal or grants are made. So yeah, it is a good point.
I would assume you guys get this funding regularly, and it's like a piece of cake. I haven't seen the other side, so I'm like, this is awesome.
All right, thanks. Okay, motion, where am I? 2025-109, resolve that staff report number 63-25- SSEA regarding funding applications update be received for information. Moved by Suzanne, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? And on to 9.18, Executive Director update Q4.
Thank you, through the chair. Just as an aside, we raised that money without a professional fundraiser on staff and without a development manager. So we don't have any professional experience doing this. This is what our science staff do to keep themselves working. So a big kudos to the team, because they just jump in and do it. So in terms of my report that you have in front of you, obviously a fair bit of time this quarter spent with the consultant, working on this piece, which is normal. Every CIO I talked to warned me ahead of time that working with a consultant doesn't mean you get to wash your hands of anything. It means they're constantly asking you for information, which is great. They were amazing to work with. They were really pleasant to work with and really clear on what they wanted. So there wasn't a lot of confusion and back and forth. The budget deputations were all completed. Thank you, Steph, for going to Georgian Bay Township. And thank you to Severn and Penetanguishene for not requesting a budget deputation. And thank you to the staff who covered for me when I wasn't able. So in Springwater and Tiny, I believe we had other staff rather than myself. So thank you for that.
I came to entertain.
I wanted to also highlight that I'm going to call out Lex. Lex has been, is the focal point for reach out to the county. He has asked for updated impact information, reached out to the county first. And they actually said to just let them attempt before we try to deal with impact. So thank you very much to Lex and to the county for taking that on for us. We haven't heard anything back yet, but hopefully it will be easier than when we also had to include the District of Muskoka, which seemed to add some confusion when we were trying to get that information. I did a bunch of highlights on the government relations side. So again, I just want this to be a reminder that I do talk to MPPs and MPs a fair bit. We do try to do everything we can to keep them in the loop every time we apply for money. So if we apply for provincial or federal money, we then let our MP and MPP know and tell them how great we think it's going to be and how we'll totally give them great photo ops you know, even those who are not currently in power, very much appreciate not just the photo op, but being able to go back to the table that they sit at when they have to help make decisions around where money's going. And that they can defend the value. So that's fantastic. But that that means can help with other things. So let's say you have an infrastructure ask that is hitting a roadblock. It could be, I'll just use an example, a sewage treatment plant upgrade. And you're approaching it from the way your municipality approaches things. We don't. We approach things from the water quality in Georgian Bay, the extreme nature of what it means to be a delisted area of concern, why it's a more sensitive water body. And so we can help from a different perspective, support the value of you needing that infrastructure money. So just something to keep in mind. And it, you know, in the past, that's been everything from helping support a conversation with an MPP, making sure I've just got some key points. So if I happen to be talking to an MPP, I can bring that up. You know, Danielle and I've gone to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. There are often politicians at those things. So it's worth the ability to say, because they're already predisposed to the thinking of water quality at those meetings. So if you have those needs, just a reminder that that's something we can help support. The Conservation Authority boundary piece, I just wanted to reemphasize. I think that was a win, catching it and being able to help you facilitate being removed where you didn't want to be in the first place. And great to see a confirmation that had been done. The last thing that I didn't include in here that just came to me when I sat down is you may have heard that Newmarket Tay Midland Hydro has sold to Electra. I don't understand the whole process with the Ontario Energy Board, but it takes like up to 2 years to actually do the transition of the sale. But they've passed a couple of milestones, so it's sort of an open conversation now that it's known that this is what's happening. We rent a building from Tay Newmarket Hydro, so the Severn Sun building is there. I just wanted you to be aware that I am in contact with the senior management or senior executives at Tay Newmarket or Newmarket Tay Hydro, just making sure that it's on their radar that if that's something they can help pass forward with Electra, that we hopefully don't lose our space. But I have been reassured that it'll probably be several years before a new company decides what to do with all the infrastructure that they bring in. So that is on our radar. Sure, we're in contact there. Hopefully we won't have to move.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions, comments? All right, motion 2025-110, resolved that the executive director Q4 update staff report 64-25-SSEA be received for information. By staff, seconded by Laurie. All those in favor? On to item 10, announcements. Do we have any announcements?
Winterama's coming up, the weekend of Family Day. Come on out, put on your warmest clothes. Parade's at 11 and then events down at our town.
Is there a sledding run or anything?
The Lions Club do the water plunge, or is it the Lions or the Rotary Club? The polar plunge they do. You
Oh,
gotta.
God.
Not like a tubing down the main street.
I
They should
should
use the main
down
street.
there.
Yeah.
Remember when they did that water slide down the main street years ago?
Yes, I would like to tube down. the main street.
I can put it in recommend for next year.
Thank you.
I'd be wearing a helmet, knee pads.
They do no bracelet.
You're really excited about it.
Well, you could come to Family Day in Oro-Medonte at Springwater Park, because they do cardboard sled races.
Oh, nice.
And you would not believe the sleds that they make. Like, they're incredible. With lights and like school buses, and last year we had a cyber truck, and so you could come and participate
I
in
went
that.
once when I lived there and I was too embarrassed. I left with my pathetic sled. I didn't enter. I was so embarrassed. I saw what was up
It's,
against.
yeah, ours is on this Sunday. It's amazing the
amazing.
effort that gets put into these cardboard toboggans. You're like,
Yeah.
wow, they really thought about this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Carnival de Bear, Feb 7.
When is
Purposeful
it?
Park- Feb 7, Purposeful Park. We do stuff too.
You know, it was like hill.
It's great that you guys are renting out skates this year. I think that is so awesome. Yeah, in Perkinsfield, you can get, you can rent skates and helmets, and we're looking to do it for a social event with work. And I'm like, well, what about everyone's safety? Oh, they rent everything. I'm like, that's great. That's a really.
Urban skates too.
Yeah.
No, we have very dull skins.
Yeah.
It's just falling down. We take videos. That's how we make our
Really
money.
sharper than mine. You get the rust off.
It's the rest, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
All right, correspondence, I think we have none, nothing closed session, any other business? What's up?
Want to put a motion forward that our July 30th meeting is at Queen's Quay and lunch is provided by the organization as a celebration of our 4 years of doing this.
I'll second that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why can't a meeting be outside
Mhm.
on the best
As
patio?
long as it's not raining.
That's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea at all. Do we have to do official motion for that, or can we just do that? Just,
Yeah, we'll-
fall under to be determined.
Write the motion. Vote away.
All right. Okay, motion on the floor is that the July 30th meeting be held at Queen's Quay with lunch provided.
I guess I can see
Carry my boat over.
Afternoon cruise, hurry
Yeah.
up, perfect.
Seconded by Suzanne, all
Sure.
those in favor?
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Do it.
Any other business?
Like sugars.
Any other lunch plan?
7:40.
She, yes, there's always budget for that. Sorry, was that what you wanted me to say?
Nothing.
All right, then motion to adjourn, motion 2025-111, resolved that this meeting of the SSCA Board of Directors held on January 29th, 2026, adjourn at 12:13 PM to meet again on April 30th, 2026, or at the call of the chair. By Lori, seconded by Suzanne, all those in favor? Thank you. Only a few minutes over, so not bad.
It's for a good time grant for lunch.
Okay. But he said years ago, he was up playing baseball in Daisy, and there were two twin brothers